Happy Saturday, everybody. Series 2, episode 14 of the Hidden London Hangouts. And this is a little bit spooky because after last week and that amazing episode on McKnight, one of the comments under my little story about the episode was this, and it came from Alf's Underground UK. And he said, can we have an episode on posters, please? The spooky thing is, that was always the plan. Today, it's all about posters. Those amazing pieces of artwork that you see as you go down the escalators, and historically were all over stations. I don't do this on my own. I've got three amazing people from the London Transport Museum to help me. First of all, Chris Nix, you're looking amazing.
Hello, Alex. Hello, everybody. Time to ransack the poster collection this week.
You look really, really good. And Siddy Holloway, I mean, you're looking absolutely gorgeous. Only moments ago, by the way, she was flinging a rug over an old box so she could put her posters on it.
I know, so I've dressed my posters up. I haven't put them on the wall yet just because I haven't decided where to put them. But also put a green top on because I feel like it's a little bit more festive than my normal black or whatever.
You look gorgeous. Whatever you wear, you look gorgeous. And Laura Hilton Brown, speaking of which, you've got a lovely Christmassy number on Mummy Christmas, haven't you?
Oh, Mummy Christmas, I like that. Well, I don't know if you can tell actually, because it has got a little sparkle going through it. So it is my Christmas kind of dress, but I'm not sure if you can tell as much as it is. But I was just thinking as I looked at the screens then that we're all wearing some form of green or blue. And your shirt, Alex, is like an amalgamation of both Siddy and I's tops. It's like we planned it.
I would always like to think that I'm a moulding of the two of you with a squirt of Chris Nix.
A little hybrid.
Today, it's all about posters, and we're delighted to have a little canter through that, some of our favourites, the history of them, and you know how they're made and where they all are. There's an amazing room at the London Transport Museum's Acton Depot, and we're going to go rifling through there. But Chris, start us off with the history of all of this, because these posters have been around for a very, very long time.
They have, yeah, and posters in the early years of the privately run tube companies were really quite functional things. They'd be there to tell you what time the trains were coming and to advise you if a station was closed. But the available printing technology meant that they weren't particularly exciting. But there was a process called lithography, a printing technique, which had been invented in Germany back in the late 1700s. And gradually that technology had evolved. And in France, they'd managed to get it to a state where it could be quite reliably used to produce bright, colourful posters. And so really the first time that this was used in a really notable way on the Underground was when Frank Pick, who we've talked about before, a really influential man and managing director of London Transport later in his career, he had arrived from the North Eastern Railway in 1906, and his brief was to raise the publicity and therefore the revenue, the money coming into the Underground Electric Railways of London. And he was also a really big patron of the arts. He was very interested in art himself, and he knew what he liked. And so in 1908, he commissioned the first poster under his tenure, which was by a man called John Hassall, who was a really, really notable poster artist. And this was the artwork that he produced. And that was turned into the first poster that really kicked off the posters that we know and love today. And that could be printed on a machine like this one in great number and used for promotional purposes around the Underground network. So that was really the first pivotal step upon which the posters that we're going to talk about today were based.
I was going to say, because you showed me the picture of the fat policeman just there, and of course that did turn into a poster, and the poster is actually framed in this glorious secret room at the London Transport Museum's at Acton Depot. Big lock and key situation. You go in there, it's chilly, it's fabulous. It feels like you're going and breaking big secrets. We went in there. Okay, let's go.
After you guys.
Let's go
Thanking you. Go sit.
Okay, well, target acquired. Here it is. This is No Need to Ask a Policeman, which was the John Hassall artwork that started it all off.
and is really there just to drive traffic, to help people to understand that the tube isn't complicated. There's maps to help you find your way around. But that in 1908 launches everything that then comes that's in this room. And in this room we've got around 5,000 individual poster designs. I think it's at 37,000 in total, because we've got multiple copies. But yeah, 5,000 separate designs. That's only about 85% of the ones that were ever made, because it wasn't a comprehensive collection.
Wow. So this one, as you said, the first one sort of to be commissioned by Frank Pick.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, it was Frank Pick who commissions this. He went to John Hassell because John Hassell was an established poster artist and illustrator. He was known as the Poster King, and you probably know one of his artworks already. The Skegness is So Bracing.
Yes.
Yes. Lady Bouncing Down the Beach. Yeah, that was his.
What a title, The Poster King.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fab.
And so, Frank Pick went to an established person to kick it off, to make sure it was successful. From there, he gets a lot more experimental, and because he was a huge patron of the arts, he really loved arts and crafts, and he followed artistic movements. He was really well placed then to go out and commission with taste and expertise. And we'll pick our way round our favourites in here and have a look at some of those now.
Now, you said a minute ago that there are 5,000 posters in here. I'm sure there are. There's two the same up there on the wall, isn't there?
Yeah, so they're not quite the same. So if you just come over and have a little closer look, and we'll just get the lights to come on. Mr. Grundon, you have a good eye. You picked the most expensive posters in the collection.
I'll take them today.
They're by an artist you might have heard of called Man Ray.
Yeah.
And last time the one on the left came up for auction, have a guess as to how much it went for.
£40,000.
With thousands or millions?
In the thousands.
Higher than 40,000?
Yes.
50,000?
More.
60.
Hundreds.
Keep going. This will feel like I'm running the auction.
£250,000.
So the one on the left is currently thought to be worth about £150,000.
You're joking?
What?
That's phenomenal.
That is worth 150 grand.
Yeah.
So as a single, what if you bought them as a pair?
Ooh, well, I don't think they've come up as a pair. I don't think the market has been tested in that way recently, because they are quite rare, those ones. Hence the price of them. Their rarity is their cost is based partly on the artist and how famous they are, the work itself and how appealing it is, but also on the rarity of them. So some of them, barely any survive, because a lot of them were posted up.
And stupid question, are all the posters in here originals?
Yes.
So, ballpark figure, what is the value of this room?
Well, there is an insurance value for it, but I don't think it's one that I can share.
Okay.
They have actually recently been revalued.
That much?
It'd be a bunch of moolah.
They're not all worth that much, but artists like McKnight Kauffer, there are some really big names in here. So yeah, those ones have got the price tags that'll make you go, oh.
So billions of dollars is what that room is probably worth. We were delighted to be in there, and I have to say, Chris, those two matching posters from Man Ray were stunning, weren't they?
Yeah, we had to frisk you before we left the building just to make sure they were still there on the wall afterwards. But they're really nice. I have one of them as a copy, as a print from the shop, but sadly they've never done the second one, so you can only have one half of it. But I do think that. Sorry, Cindy, go on.
No. You can. No. I was going to just rudely cut you off there. Sorry.
I'm just going to finish by saying I think it's that beauty of equating the bullseye roundel of London Underground with London Transport rather with Saturn was just sort of like showing how stratospherically they were thinking in the marketing team.
But I think that's the whole thing. By the way, just to say, whenever I go to the depot, half the fun is actually being frisked when I leave. That's part of the reason I go. But weirdly, the whole notion of those posters, the reason I love them was because they're so simple, and it made the roundel keynote to the whole design. We've got a picture of them.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you guys, though. I know they're worth a lot of money, but I find it quite interesting that they're worth all that money, and they, you know, and they are very impactful. But compared to some of the really beautiful designs and the colours and the, you know, stuff, you know, it's kind of a black block work with two little things. So personally, it's not my favourite. I think it's kind of interesting that it's, you know, it's literally like black and then little bits. I don't know.
City Holloway will be doing lectures in art at Central School of Art next semester.
Okay.
I think what that demonstrates is one of the charming things about the poster collection, because there's such a huge range of subject matter and artists, and it is art is often a matter of personal taste. Then it means that it can appeal to a very broad audience. So there we are.
So let's have another look at those posters again, because I want to see what Laura thinks of them.
So let's just have a look at, there you go, Laura. That's how that artwork was turned into a poster.
What do you think, Laura? Porky policeman, happy?
Yeah, I know that this is really iconic because, as Chris explained before, it's very much about that, the forefront of kind of the poster and where a lot of artwork was generated from, and how Frank Pitt commissioned this artist, and so it's got a lot of heart and history. It's not something I would have on my wall at home. It's not to say I don't like it. It's just not. It's not particularly my taste. But I feel bad saying this because.
Go on.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, do you think that the policeman is obviously of a certain portly stature, but do you think the woman? She's either wearing a bustle or she's been stealing posters from the museum depot, hasn't she? Because she's got quite a...
Well, I think, isn't the point kind of here that they're supposed to be sort of ordinary folk, i.e. not very wealthy or anything like that, and so they're just sort of your average Joe, you know, able to take the underground. It's not something fancy or posh that only people of wealth can, you know, utilize. It's something that they're supposed to be the average Joe. And
You're right. They're designed to look like people from out of town, so country folk basically, and that's the idea, is that even people who aren't familiar with the city can find their way around without needing to ask a policeman, because there's a map behind them. And
let's see another one.
That style of John Hassell is, it's quite notable. It's almost cartoonish. Here's another later one that he did, and it's but you can see these are all designed to reassure people that traveling on the underground makes it easier to get about in town.
It sort of looks like he's in the middle of the sea.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It does rather.
Lots of amused people. Maybe
it was a
piece the smoggy London background, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
If you ever go to Camden Town Tube, everybody's walking around with that face because no one can work out which platform they've got to take.
So there you go. There's the Man Ray pair of posters with the roundel and Saturn.
Very nice. Now, as if you hadn't seen enough of this amazing depot, we decided to go back in there because there just is so much to see.
This is something that I've always thought is really fascinating. We did a big exhibition about this in the museum a few years ago. Was it a few years ago?
Yeah.
Which was that Frank Pitt then started commissioning loads of women artists way before it became kind of normal, right? Before. So this is a piece from 1932 by an artist called Nora Batty. I'm joking. Dora Batty. Her name was Dora Batty. Not Nora, Dora. Dora Batty, and this is a beautiful piece of, I would say, Art Deco kind of poster art, because it's just, it's really simple but beautiful, and kind of has the lines of Art Deco in it and whatnot. And it's quite a male subject matter. It's quite masculine.
It's a highly unusual thing at that time in 1932 for a female artist to be given a commission like that for a play, which would be typically something that male artists would be expected to draw. It's also, as you say, it's not just a good example of an Art Deco poster. I'd argue it's probably the example of an Art Deco poster in the collection.
And where did all the women come from?
Well, They
were just starting to graduate, weren't they, from art school and kind of all those establishments?
Yeah, Frank Pick's love of the arts meant that he was working with Central School of Art, and they had a lot of very talented female artists at the time, and he had no prejudice regarded their work, and that's the way they came to be commissioned. And just as I say, it wasn't the norm at the time, so it was really ahead of its time.
What was really interesting to me is that there were all these women artists being commissioned sort of in the 20s and 30s, and then the Second World War comes around, and then after the war there were almost none of them commissioned anymore, because it's almost like society took a bit of a step backwards after the war, kind of reclaiming jobs that were, you know, previously done by men. It's quite interesting how that movement happened.
There's a slight nuance to that. The post-war, just the number of posters that were being commissioned crashed. It went from maybe 100 a year to 10 a year. So they're just not, you know, people generally, artists generally weren't getting commissioned, but yeah.
So would it be fair to say that Frank Pick commissioning female artists at this time kind of shaped the way for kind of society and culture moving forward?
It really was an important societal step that he did that. It's not just this. There's a number of things that he did in his career that were about empowering people, particularly empowering women. So I think he was a man who was ahead of his time in that thinking, and did a huge amount of good.
And also think about it this way: a huge organisation like London Transport, or you know, its precursor, commissioning women to do so gives license to other people to do the same.
That's what I'm thinking, that it kind of really shaped it.
It's hard to understate how it's such a huge thing to get a commission from London Transport at that time. There were really only two companies that an aspiring artist would want to get commissioned by. One was General Post Office for a stamp, because everybody would see it, and the other one was London Transport.
Let's take a look at that Colindale poster again, just because the light was on it and it was a bit glary, but let's have a proper look at it. I mean, it is stunning, isn't it, Laura?
I do. I love this one. I love the simplicity of it and the really muted colours with that kind of pop of orange, and then the roundel in the tucked away in the kind of top left. I think it's a beautiful poster. And I think, like Chris said before, art is very personal. It's very subjective, and we're finding out just from this discussion today that, you know, we love certain pictures. We kind of, certain images resonate with us and not others, and it's such a lovely topic to discuss because people have such different viewpoints on them, which I think makes it a really nice theme.
And I think as well, what we can do is come back to this in series 3 and do another one on the modern posters, because they're the ones that so many people recognise, but you kind of have to understand the history of them to understand how we got to where we are with the modern ones. So, and it really is fascinating, really, really fascinating. Thank you very much for that, explaining that, Siddy, as well, about the, you know, that particular group of artists in quite austere times. Want to be back in that room. Get me back in that room. I want to see more. So this is another one of those iconic posters, and it's probably worth a fortune, right?
Yeah, it is worth quite a lot, that one. That's a McKnight Kauffer.
Every time somebody said that to me, though, that name, I was like, what? It's Edward McKnight Kauffer. People say it really fast.
Not Midnight Cowboy.
It's just like Edward McKnight Kauffer. I was like, what? Really beautiful poster, proper Art Deco kind of feels to this, right? That kind of block work and the black and the orange, showing Lots Road, powering the nerve centre of London. It's quite full on, isn't it?
It's really manly. Big black fist.
It's kind of there, really setting out the stall of, you know, the underground surging ahead. And this is an American artist who was extremely prolific in the interwar years, but when he first got a commission from London Transport, he was struggling. He came as a recommendation from John Hassell. So John Hassell recommended him to Frank Pick, and that's how he got his first commission.
It's quite interesting because these are both of them are by him. This one's from 1930, but this one from 1921. See how his style's changing, and then the last one's from 1938, and it's a complete kind of style change really from kind of what he's done before?
It's a kind of pastoral scene almost in the immediately pre-war year. The other thing that's always stands out to me about McKnight Kauffer is just how variable his writing is. So this
It's supposed to look like sludge, right?
Yeah, quite often with posters, the typeface is added after, you know, the artist just does the artwork and then the typeface is added afterwards. But he actually did the, you know, individually by hand typeface effectively on there. But it's just highly variable.
Very interesting.
What I also love about this one is if you go to Covent Garden, we have another copy of it there and the original artwork. And American artist, you can see on the original artwork that there's a piece of card stuck over the top of the R and the E because, of course, he, being American, had done the E and the R. So as part of the poster creation process was to emphasise it.
And there we have it.
Do you know, the thing is, if I put my arm out like that, there's no way that's going to control London, is it really? I don't really have the power of that guy, but it is a beautiful poster. Show me that fist again, Chris. Get in. Look at that. Oh, yeah, I mean, look at it. It's controlling everything. Laura, happy with that one? What do you think?
Love that poster.
I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Show us another one, Chris, because there's a fair few of these icons, isn't there?
Yeah, so McKnight Kauffer was pretty prolific. Once he'd established with the underground, he did quite a lot of work. So I just picked out a couple of other bits of artwork and poster for some of the other things that he was asked to promote.
I like that. That's quite interesting. So that's
Beautiful,
kind of very, you know, 30s way of telling you to you know, off-peak travel. Wonderful world of off-peak.
Yeah. An away day return. That's what it was.
I remember first moving to London and not knowing about off-peak, and then suddenly kind of realizing that certain times of the day were cheaper than others, and finding it kind of quite mind-blowing, especially like if you didn't know about it. So it's good advertisement.
And it wasn't the only time that they used to highlight, was there? There was another one that highlighted evenings, wasn't there?
There was, and I mean, these, you know, we kind of used to this sort of travel demand management poster as they're known today. But yeah, this one, thoroughly modern. Look at that. Play between 6 and 12 at night, of course.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. They are beautiful. And of course, we all have one or two favourites. Well, Chris's case, it's 4. But there are favourites of our own. And Siddy had her eye on something in that museum depot.
Yeah, we're going to walk around the corner and
come and have a little look.
What you found, Sid?
This one, I think, I have actually never seen this one. It's like the one we have in our house, Alex.
And
it's the opposite. And I just love like the green, because the other one's kind of more red and black and showing it's warmer down below, but now here it's cooler down below. And all these poor people on the surface are just wiltering and dying, it seems. But I just like the green and the blue. It's the contrast to the other one.
Why is it, Chris, that there was that double act of posters, the warmer down below and cooler down below? Because if you believe what we told them in previous Hangouts, that effectively it was cooler down below because the tunnels were wet and cold and the ground was cold.
Yeah, it sounds almost like a contradiction, doesn't it? But of course, the tube was still relatively young then, so the ground hadn't warmed up around the tunnels, and therefore you didn't have that persistent heat that would sit there in the summer that you do today. Yeah. The other thing is they could open and close the ventilation dampers along the tunnels. So, of course, in the winter, they'd close them to keep the warmth in, and in the summer they'd open them up to make it breathe better and be cooler. So it was true, it was generally a bit cooler down below in the summer and a bit warmer down below in the summer. You notice they don't say a bit.
And so basically now it's hot.
Most of the time, yeah.
Roasting.
A couple of things. This, if I tell you this poster is from 1926, if you look at the train stock,
that's a standard stock train.
Because you can see the engine, the little engine room at the front.
The motor compartment.
I love that. You can see that is a professional pointy finger.
But And this is by an artist known as Herrick, which there's quite a lot of things by him that I like.
Laura, just to let you know, by the way, I'm warmer down below. Just to let you know.
So am I. How weird. Look how warm I am.
And do you know what? So am I. I had to have bought that about 4 or 5 weeks ago.
No, I feel left out.
Oh no.
Laura, are you warmer or cooler down below?
I've just got penguins.
She's definitely cooler down below.
They're very cool penguins, though.
They are. There's some orange on there as well, isn't there? So it's similar.
Very, very nice. Well, I mean, they are amazing, and I just love that one. I think it's absolutely beautiful. The warmer and the cooler down below. Amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to get the cooler. I want to get the cooler one as well. And then depending on what season,
you could rotate through the seasons, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And sort of depending on what season it is, you can swap them around. But I absolutely love this. There's something just about the colours that's so vivid and gorgeous for me.
I think it's one of those things that we are going to see more of. It's the vividness of the colours that they use. Chris, yours is altogether a whole lot more subtle. Your favourite set of posters, isn't it?
So yeah, speaking of subtle, Alex, just before we move on, these were 2 predecessor versions of Warmer Down Below and Cooler Down Below, which is, a much typical of earlier posters where you haven't got that eye-catching artwork to draw you into the message. Also, for your reassurance, the 60 degrees we presume is in Fahrenheit rather than Celsius.
Well, it does look. It's got the appeal. Those posters have got the appeal of the labels in the back of your shirts, wash labels. Because to be honest, it's got a temperature on it, but no one wants to read it.
Yeah,
it's a care instruction.
Funny. But think about it though. If we take this is truth, 60 degrees Fahrenheit is about 15 degrees Celsius, and that would have been a very pleasant kind of temperature to be traveling around in both during winter and summer. So it's a shame it's heated up a little bit.
It would have been cardy weather down in August, wouldn't it? It's amazing. So these subtle offerings that you've got, Chris, educate us, please, because I mean, as I say, you love them. I'm not sure that what I make of them. These ones, they're nice, but
thank you.
Why?
These are by an artist called Andre Edward Marty, and he did a lot of illustrations for Vogue. He was pretty hot property at the time he was being commissioned. He did quite a lot of work for London Transport. And these posters, the reason I've got the set of 4 is because that's how they were designed to be displayed. And they were designed to promote not just the underground, but also general, the buses, Green Line for coaches out into the country, and also the tramways, which were being combined by this point. And so I just think they're really nice kind of country scenes, and they do work rather well as a set of 4 in my hallway. So this, if I just move you on,
can I just say, by the way, just while you're on those, when you look at them as a 4, you instantly see why they work. When you've only shown them to me, I've only seen one, and I've never worked out the difference. As a 4, it is a beautiful set of 4 posters.
They seem kind of Japanese to me. I've said this to you before, but they kind of have a kind of simplistic, beautiful Japanese kind of feel to them to me.
Very zen.
Yeah. And they're really just selling the idea of going out into the country by those means of transport. I think you're right. I wouldn't necessarily display one on its own. They really do need to sit there as a 4.
Beautiful, nice choice. And Laura and her choice was a lovely one, and one that we all just frankly gawped at in the depot when we went down there.
Laura's choice.
So it's kind of hard to have favourite posters in here, isn't it? Because there's so much choice, and we have another room to go into as well. But this is super eye-catching, and I think it's Horace Taylor, 1924.
Excellent work.
Now, if I remember correctly, it was one of the popular choices in our Poster Art 150 exhibition back in 2013. And this is where I'm pulling on. All right, so I'm putting on my memory here, but I think it was done thematically, and there were 6 sections. And there was actually a section called Brightest London, which was showcasing theatre, sport, you know, coming into London to Theatreland and enjoying the kind of day and night life. And the customers were actually asked to vote for their favourite poster in the whole of the exhibition. I think there are about, I was going to say, I think there are about 150. Funny enough, that was the name of the exhibition. There were,
There's a clue there, isn't there? Circa 150.
There are about 151 posters.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was the winner. You're right. This was the winner, and I love it because of the colour. And just everyone's dressed up, ready to go out.
Like,
they're going out.
I know normally I do the technical stuff, but look at the coats of those two women on the left-hand side.
I
at
know.
The bottom. It's like proper, 20s.
So if that was Siddy and I'm going for the green. Siddy, you could totally pull off the blue with the yellow circles.
I reckon I could, I'd go
could.
with it, for sure.
And it says something about history and the way we saw cities as well.
Absolutely.
Because cities were seen as the places of dreadful delights, the most amazing exuberant colours and everything else. And that, to me, sums up why London was such an attractive place for people from all over the country.
I know we've talked before at length about tiles, and Siddy, you talked about it, I think, on the Hyde Park Corner episode, about just how it cheered up, a gloomy, kind of soot-ridden city that it would have been at the time. But this poster, I think, really does do that job. But of course, it's bright electric light. So if you were wearing bright clothing, it would look quite like that. And also, the medium that the artist has used is gouache. So it's a vibrant poster paint. So it's absolutely the perfect medium to work in to make it pop and make it do its job of saying brightest London.
It does its job. You're right. That's what it does.
You only have to look at it, don't you, to realise how lucky we are to live in this city as well.
Yeah.
Even now.
It's a feel-good poster, isn't it?
Should we bring back top hats?
We could wear one, couldn't we?
You two could totally rock.
I've got a bowler, I don't have a top. No.
I called dibs on some of those coats, for sure.
Absolutely.
Nice choice, Laura. Beautiful, beautiful poster.
Thank you very much. I think what's lovely is London Underground have such a tradition of commissioning these memorable and creative pieces of artwork, these posters, and they're just stunning. That exhibition was just stunning, and the exhibition reflected LTM's poster kind of collection, which I think, Chris, correct me, does it span about 100 years, something like that? And it reflects different styles, different artists, different techniques. And there was, as I said in that little section there were 6 themes. Brightest London was one of them, very much about cultural kind of, sports and theatre. There was one called Finding Your Way, which I guess is the original use for posters back in the day. It was very much about wayfinding and navigation. And so this exhibition covers that, but it moves away from that slightly as well, because there's one called Away From It All, and that was about green spaces and parks. There was another one called Keeps London Going, and I think that showcased the speed and the reliability and punctuality of the tube and travel around London. And this one is perhaps my favourite, which is probably a little bit left of centre, but there was another one called Love Your City. And it's the kind of, I guess what this did was it celebrated the soul of London. And there's something that really resonates inside me with that little kind of caption, celebrates the soul of London. LTM often talk about transport being the lifeblood of London, of this epic city. And if that's the case, then, the soul of London is whatever we want it to be as people, as commuters or as residents or as workers, employees, whatever you do. So that culture and diversity of the city, this little section is very much about that for me. How lovely is that? It celebrates the soul of the city. That's phenomenal, isn't it?
It's really interesting you should say that, because I was trying to debate what I said about my favourite poster. Chris, show them the one I chose, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to say. Because for me, my choice was so clear. Which is your favourite poster? It is this. Okay, Downtown to Soho by Bus and Tube. I could give away a very, very simple answer, and it is, isn't that a beautiful, beautiful picture? And I love the artwork. But you know, it's actually far more fundamental. And you were talking, Laura, about the soul of somebody and what art can say to them. And I can remember as a kid coming into London, going to the Transport Museum, loving every minute of it. I had relatives in London, and I always had a desire to be in London. I was a home counties kid, very, very simple, you know, happy childhood broadly, but I always craved the bright lights of the city, not least of all because I was trying to work out who I was. And I was worried that being who I was wouldn't work in the home counties, and it might do in London. And when I first came to London to study at university, I was very scared. And seeing that poster made me wonder whether Soho might be an area where people like me might accept me. And brilliantly, I went there and daringly went to bars and stuff like that. And it is thanks to that poster luring me to this beautiful, beautiful, accepting part of London that I have become the person that I've become. I genuinely believe that the attractiveness of that poster made the area attractive to me. And it genuinely has had a very profound, very positive, very happy effect on me. And I'm delighted to say I've had several copies of that poster, and it's been hanging in flats, student accommodation, and goodness knows what else. To me, it is a truly beautiful poster and probably some kind of signature of my life.
It's gorgeous. I think one of the things that I really like that that London Transport and TfL have actually continued is that they still use illustration and artwork in a lot of their posters rather than photography. So like even as TfL has kind of, you know, moved on and become more modern, and you know, most companies do, you know, photography as their main means of advertisement. I love the fact that there are still illustrations on the network that are just pure artwork rather than, you know, photos of people using the tube or whatever, even though that's sometimes, you know, used. But I think even just the photos of, you know, how if you've been drinking, it's like a beer glass that turns into the tube and things like that. I just think it's a lovely tradition.
It's lovely. And I think that today's episode is just proof that it doesn't matter what you get out of the posters and artwork on the tube, you'll get something, and you'll probably just brighten your day. As certainly we were saying in previous episodes, we're just missing being on the tube and enjoying the surroundings, really. Thank you very much. But all of you, brilliant stuff, thank you. And some notes, queries and questions for you before we go. First of all, remember last week we heard from Ricky Lamb, and that really lovely end to the episode. I'm so pleased I made your day with my message. I was almost in tears at the reaction from you guys. Just one episode of something they like each week can mean so much to people. So thanks, Ricky. Lovely to hear from you. Peter Bralade on Facebook, an excellent watch as ever. I'll be watching out for the Isle of Wight revisit next spring. But one thing, could Siddy please just say Reykjavik in her Icelandic, please, because I love it.
Oh, God. Yeah, sure. I am from Reykjavik, Iceland, Reykjavik.
Could you say some other things just for anybody who's enjoying that moment?
Sure. I mean, is this some sort of service that we can pronounce, you know, put out on Patreon that I just randomly pronounce Icelandic names? Reykjavik, where I'm from.
Beautiful. Also, one for you, Chris. This is from Dave Sticks on YouTube. He says, "Hi, everybody." We haven't done that today, have we? Everybody. A question for you. When I was a wee lad, I travelled on a Green Line coach out to Surrey, I think. Can you tell me what the moquette would have been on these coaches, please? Anybody?
I can. Reaches for Moquettopedia and reveals. There you go. That is a Green Line moquette.
That's lovely.
It's green and it has lines. There you are.
That's very nice. You know what? You could turn that into a kilt for yourself, Chris. That would look lovely.
I think it might be slightly rough on the thighs, Alex.
Alex is determined to get you in a kilt next, I reckon. Something was a spot in the other.
Seems suspicious, so I'm just going to say.
Yeah.
If you remember,
nice heavy fabric. That's what you need.
If you remember, you saw that as a cat scratching post last week.
Good.
Yes.
George Fairburn on YouTube says, always a treat to listen to and watch all your moquettes. Alex, you should do a clip show of all your sneaky double entendres. Well, George, if I do, I'll give you one. And also, John Vincent, he's Queen Street 24 on Instagram. He sent this picture, which was really quite cool. Now, this is his office window. It's an original from the 1983 vintage from the Northern Line tube car. However, as the condition was mint, I suspect it was never used, he says. It would make a great episode to explain how they were made, how the designs were changed, when they first came into use, etc. Gives you a little food for thought, maybe. What do you think, Mr. Nix?
Well, yes. I mean, we haven't really done maps.
Yeah, I was going to say we could do maps for sure.
So yeah, there's a lot to get. You do an awful lot in an episode taking that as a subject. So yeah, I sold. What do you reckon, Laura, Sidi?
Well, looking at Alex's reaction to the maps in the poster store, he got super giddy about that. So he's gonna lose it if we do a whole episode of maps.
Super giddy, I love that. I want to be super giddy. So please keep it coming. Slip into our DMs, or you can send stuff to the Transport Museum. We will get it. It's absolutely fantastic. So do keep interacting with us. I mean, Laura, we do love a post bag, a nice bulging post bag, don't we?
I love a bulging post bag, and it's Christmas, guys. Christmas cards, Christmas decorations. We are rolling through December, so I think Christmas. No, I don't think Christmas. I think Chris. I think Chris.
I'll be Chris.
Well, got super giddy myself. I think Chris and Alex need to join Sidi and I on the sparkly, festive kind of wear here, even if it's. Oh, Alex, you must have the museum's Christmas scarf or jumper or hat or something.
Worse still, Law, I'm kicking myself because I went through my wardrobes and my lovely London Transport Museum jumper that I've got is in Portugal.
Yes.
It's not even here. It's in Portugal. I can't even go and get it. I'm gutted. Absolutely gutted. So I'm without my beautiful jumper. So I'm going to have to think again. Although next week, what I might well do is present the Hidden London Hangout from afoot my Christmas tree.
Yes.
Which will be bedecked in Christmas delights. Chris Nix, thank you so much as always for being part of this.
Oh, well, thanks, Alex. That was a great trail ahead. I can't wait to see you with the Christmas tree next week.
Bedecked. Sidi, you're gorgeous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now you've convinced me that I actually really want an LTM jumper, so I'm going to get one this week when the museum opens and the shop opens.
Sidi, you'll rock it. You'll rock it.
She certainly will. And Laura, as always, thank you so much, Mummy Christmas, for just putting us in the Christmas spirit ahead of Christmas.
I know. I am looking forward to Christmas, so I'm sorry if I go on about it a bit too much in the next few episodes. In fact, no, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry is absolutely fine. So you need to follow us on Instagram. You've got Alex Grunton, you've got Sidi Holloway, you've got Hidden London Law, and you've got Kiffer North 6. He would say Cypher, but it's Kiffer. You know what I mean? It's not S, it's a C. Kiffer North 6. You've also got LT Museum, and that's on Instagram. Then on YouTube, make sure down below you follow and subscribe and like and comment and join us at 6 o'clock every Saturday, right through Christmas and beyond into Series 3, because we have something for you every week which will tickle your pickle. Have yourself a great day and stay safe.